Welcome back to the Takeout. Voters in Virginia are poised to elect the Commonwealth's first female governor this November. The Republican nominee is the state's lieutenant governor, Winsome Earl Sears. The Democratic nominee, three-term former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, with whom I spoke earlier. Some of this cycle in Virginia has just been a little bit different, if not a little bit weird. Republicans are quite comfortable with their candidate. There's no primary. Winsome Sears, the lieutenant governor, is the nominee. The Democrats, there was no primary. Democrats either didn't think it was worthwhile or wise to challenge you. So they view you as the best representative of the party. So where should the party be going across the country? Because we see a whole range of Democrats that are competing in 2026.
So I think I'll pull it back to Virginia, because I don't want to speak for anybody in any other state. But what I know to be true in Virginia, and why I am so excited about so many of the candidates that we have running, certainly at the statewide level, but also we have 100 Democrats running in 100 House of Delegates seats. And there are people of their communities. There are people who want to go to Richmond and speak about the issues they're hearing from their communities. And as it relates to what drives me, I am campaigning on the issues that people have been bringing to me since I first got in this race. And my focus is solely and squarely on Virginia. And so I hope that if there's ever a kind of takeaway in the future, that it's, a candidate who was relentlessly focused on the strength of her Commonwealth, on being responsive to the needs of voters in every corner of her state, is the candidate who won.
Notwithstanding that, you must have some thoughts on the winner of the New York mayoral primary, Mr. Mamdani. I mean, he becomes a standard bearer of your party in a major jurisdiction, and you aren't exactly politically the same.
So I would say this. I do not, to any degree, assess that I know much about New York City politics. And so I'll defer to my former colleagues, or for those who spend time as voters or spend their time in New York City to speak to that race. Because I know Virginia and our Commonwealth and the cities across Virginia, the counties across Virginia, the towns across Virginia. Everywhere I travel, people are talking about what it is that they want to see here at home. And it's a focus on affordability. It's a focus on lowering the cost of prescription drugs. It's recognition that in some parts of our state, we've seen extraordinary increases in energy bills. We've seen rental communities purchased up by out-of-state companies, and prices have gone up. We've seen real challenges that impact people's ability to live in the communities that they want to live in and thrive in those communities. We know that Virginia's recovery after the pandemic in our math scores were 51st after every single state and the District of Columbia. And so Virginians want a governor who's focused on strengthening our education system and making sure that our kids, and I have 3 kids in Virginia public schools, our kids continue to learn in quality classrooms where the teachers are there for the long haul, where their governor respects their service to the community, where they are well paid, and where our kids are set up for success, whatever path they might choose, off into a career or off to college. That's what I'm hearing here in Virginia.
And your voters, your constituents, are so uniquely tied to the military in the Commonwealth, not just the Pentagon, all the naval stations, all the Army bases. Everything that happens in Virginia has so many connective tissues to the military. Are you surprised the public seems pretty split on their support of those airstrikes in Iran?
Well, I think importantly, in addition to our military footprint, which is extraordinary of all branches of service, we also have an extraordinary footprint of the intelligence community and the diplomatic community. And so I think that for those who have spent time in the national security space, certainly as I have as well as a former CIA case officer, there's a recognition and a clear-eyed view of the fact that Iran is a state sponsor of terror, that Iran is a destabilizing force within the Middle East, in that there is much more information necessary, certainly to be put before Congress and ultimately, down the line before the American public. I think for so many of us, certainly as someone who has represented military installations and the people who serve there, as well as someone running to be the governor of Virginia, my concern is about what comes next, the impact on so many of the families that I have represented and the families I want to continue serving, because I think it is extraordinarily vital that the president and his leadership team have an understanding, a clear-eyed understanding of what might come next, and that we as a nation are prepared for that. And that's the core of my worry and concern at this moment, is what are we preparing for? How closely are we coordinating with our closest partners and allies? And certainly that into the future, the men and women of the armed services, as well as the diplomatic and intelligence communities, are protected. And certainly we saw a potential risk with the retaliatory intended strike on Qatar, and the potential risks that incidents like that could pose to our military personnel overseas in the future is what I continue to be worried about and want to ensure that there's congressional oversight of, and certainly that this administration has a plan moving forward.
Thanks for making time for us.
Thanks so much for having me.